A single choice at 3 in the morning can irrevocably alter the course of a life. Looking back, my final delivery started the moment I decided to stop listening to my gut. My name is Kiran. I was a courier on the graveyard shift, barely making enough to stay ahead of the bills. Financial desperation creates a specific kind of tunnel vision, where you stop seeing risks and only see numbers. That's when the notification hit my screen. It was a standard drop-off, but it came with a 500 rupee bonus, an amount that made absolutely no sense for the distance involved. I accepted it instantly. My debt had created a blind spot so large that I didn't even stop to wonder why a midnight delivery would pay 10 times the standard rate. Seconds after I took the job, my phone rang. It was a blocked ID. When I picked up, a voice, thin and trembling, whispered a single sentence: "Do not go to that address." I hung up and convinced myself it was a prank. I needed that bonus to pay rent, and I wasn't going to let a weird phone call stand between me and a payday. By hitting the ignition and pulling into traffic, I became the architect of my own disaster. I chose to trade a clear warning for 500 rupees, effectively walking toward the edge with my eyes wide open. The city lights eventually disappeared in my rearview mirror. I found myself on a rural back road where the fog was so thick I could barely see 10 feet past my own handlebars. The isolation was immediate. The further I rode, the more it felt like the shadows on the side of the road were leaning in, following the sound of my engine through the dead silence. The weather turned violent within minutes. Heavy lightning strikes began to illuminate the fields around me, showing a landscape that felt increasingly alien and hostile. My internal dread grew with every mile. The physical distance from the city mirrored my own growing vulnerability. I was driving deeper into a space where no one could hear me if I called for help. I finally reached the coordinates. The house was a rotting shell of wood and gray stone, but as I cut the engine, I could hear a low, rhythmic thrumming coming from inside the walls. I walked up the porch with the package in my hand. Before my knuckles could even touch the wood, the front door unlatched itself and swung slowly into the darkness. I could feel a presence watching me from the end of the hallway, cold and expectant. Despite the instinctive urge to bolt, I took a step inside, drawn in by the heavy silence of the house. I had already invested hours into this trip. Driven by the need to see the delivery through and collect my money, I ignored the obvious danger and walked straight into the dark. The interior was freezing. I shined my light around the foyer and found a second package already sitting on a small table, perfectly centered in the dust. I leaned in to read the label. The name printed in bold, black letters was my own, Kiran. My pulse began to hammer against my ribs. I swung my flashlight toward the wall, the beam catching a cracked mirror that seemed to pull the light into its jagged edges. Finding my own name in this abandoned hallway shattered my understanding of the situation. I was standing in a house that ignored the basic rules of reality, and the package on the table proved I was the intended target all along. I looked into the mirror and saw the truth I had been driving toward all night. The reflection staring back wasn't a living man, but a gray, sunken corpse with hollow eyes, a version of myself that had already stopped breathing. The heavy silence of the room was broken by a familiar, rasping whisper coming from directly behind my shoulder. "You were never the courier, Kiran," the voice said. "You were the cargo. My desperation had a specific price, and the 500 rupee bonus was the final payment. As the last of my flashlight's battery flickered out, the house claimed its delivery.